What's going on, everybody? 2021 is almost here, and it's going to be a pretty stacked year in FGO. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 5 servants that I would recommend summoning for in 2021. And number 5 on my list is Emma. She's a single target art saber, and is sort of a supportive and offensive unit. Her first skill is an evasion that also grants a 40% crit damage bonus. Her second skill decreases the defense of all enemies. It also decreases the critical rate for all enemies and also inflicts NP seal. And her third skill increases attack for all allies, increases buff removal resist of all allies, and also charges her MP gauge by 20%. All 3 of her skills are really strong. She has an evade that increases her survivability. She provides bonuses to the whole party with the attack buff and MP charge, as well as decreasing the defense of the enemies, and also MP steal to enemies, which is really helpful in some harder content. On top of that, her MP is a single target arts MP that deals special damage to chaotic enemies and evil enemies, and those can stack. So if an enemy has 1 or even 2 of those attributes, she can do some really insane damage to them. So all around, with the support utility she provides to the team, strong MP damage, and some survivability, Emma is probably a really good single target saber to get if you don't already have one. Number 4 on my list is Arjuna Alter. He is a buster AoE berserker, and I think he's even stronger than Raiko currently is. Starting off with his MP, it deals a lot of damage to all enemies, and it also decreases their buster resistance, and that activates before the MP, so it does a lot of damage. His first skill increases his own attack for 3 turns, and it also applies a special attack for himself. So if he attacks a debuffed enemy, it deals even more damage. And that's where his NP comes in, where it decreases their buster resistance, so he just deals a buttload of damage to people. His second skill increases his buster card star gather rate for 3 turns, and also increases his MP gauge by 30%. Now, this is really rare for Berserker to have an MP gauge, and is one of the reasons why he's so strong, because a 30% MP gauge is pretty insane on an AoE Berserker and makes farming things a lot easier. And his final skill is his survivability skill, which gives him guts 1 time for 3 turns, and it also recovers his HP every turn for up to 20 health, or 2000 health every turn. Overall, he just has a really strong damage kit, and he's just sort of a stronger Raiko who's already a really strong Berserker. He's really great for farming, especially because of the MP gauge and all the buffs he can give himself. Number 3 on my list is Super Orion. He is an absolutely beast at soloing and just doing an insane amount of damage. His first skill is an increase to his buster card effectiveness for 1 turn, and also applies special damage to demonic and wild beasts enemies for 1 turn. Both of these are up to 50%, and they stack, so it's just absolutely insane. A mana burst on his first skill. His second skill applies guts to himself 1 time for 3 turns, increases his own attack for 3 turns by up to 20%, and also gains 20 crit stars the turn he uses the skill. And his third skill increases his own crit star gather rate for 3 turns, and increases his critical strength when attacking for buster card for 3 times for 3 turns. With the skills activated, it's not uncommon for him to do like 150k damage with a buster face card that lands a crit. It's just absolutely insane how much damage he can do with just himself. I like to treat him a lot like Herc, where you can just throw him in the backline of any challenging content and he'd likely get you through the rough parts. And his MP only further synergizes with his hit, It increases his attack for 3 turns. It applies Ignore Invincibility to self for 3 turns, debuff immunity for 3 turns, and gain 10 crit stars every turn for 3 turns. It's absolutely insane what he can do by himself, and you don't really need to pair him with anybody else because he can just sort of function on his own, and you can just throw him into any team comp and he'll do his job. Number 2 on my list is Kama. She is a quick single target assassin, and I still think she's the strongest assassin in the entire game. Her first skill increases the MP overcharge of an ally for 1 level, 1 time for 3 turns. It also restores their HP by 4,000, but as a demerit, it decreases their max HP of an ally by 1,000. Now, this is a demonic Bodhisattva CE on a skill, and it's just insane. With her second skill, it implies guts to herself for 1 time and increases her attack by 30% for 3 turns. And the guts on the skill, it doesn't expire. So you can pop it whenever you want, and it doesn't have a turn limit. It'll be used whenever it's used. It won't ever just go away unless, of course, enemies have like buff removal, but otherwise it'll stick to her. Her third skill increases her MP gauge by 50%. She gains class advantage against alter egos for 3 turns and increases her critical strength by 20% for 3 turns. This is really insane, having a 50% battery on a single target assassin, as well as having class advantage against alter egos. That's also a really rare trait to have that not many servants have. Her MP is a single target quick MP that deals damage to a single enemy with an 80% chance to inflict them with charm. And then it also increases her quick card effectiveness for 3 turns. Overall, she's just a single target assassin that deals a whole bunch of damage. She also has some really unique mechanics, such as the guts that doesn't expire and the class advantage to alter egos. The 50% MP gauge helps out a ton while farming, especially on lottos later on, where you can't really loop that efficiently, or you have to have a really high MP level looper to do it. And yeah, I just think she's one of the strongest servants in the game, and easily the strongest assassin unit in the game, especially with the current Scotty meta. And number 1 on the list is kind of cheating what I'm doing, but it's going to be 2 servants. You can either roll both of them or one of them, but it's going to be your Arts Looper for the incoming Castoria meta coming in 2020. First, I'll talk about Berserker Musashi. She is an AoE Arts Berserker, and her first skill is an evade for 1 time and increases her crit strength for 1 turn by up to 50%. Her second skill doubles the number of hits when using art cards for 1 turn, but it reduces their damage per hit by 50%. And it also increases the damage when using art cards by 30% and increases her NP gain for 3 turns. So even though each hit is going to be doing 50% less damage, with the number of hits increasing as well as the increased damage for art cards for 1 turn, you're overall going to be doing more damage. On top of that, you're also getting the NP gain by up to 50% for 3 turns, which is really, really good. And then her final skill, it allows her to ignore invincibility for 3 turns, increases her attack by 30% for 3 turns, gives her a guts, and also decreases the defense of all enemies by 30%. But as a demerit, it does decrease her health by 5,000, which can be quite a bit. However, you're going to primarily use her for looping, so it really doesn't matter because you shouldn't be taking any damage while you're looping. And her NP is a AoE Arts NP that deals damage to all enemies with a chance to inflict NP seal to saber enemies. Now, the issue with Summer Musashi as a looper is that she is a berserker, So she's gonna have a really hard time looping against other berserker nodes, and that's always really common in just standard free quests as well as lottos. And on top of that, you want to try to use her third skill on the final wave, since it decreases the defense of all enemies, and that can help out a ton when clearing out some of the higher health enemies. Overall though, she is still a fantastic arts looper, and I still try to use her as much as possible just because she is my waifu and she can still loop through most nodes. What I consider safer option is Space Ishtar. She is an AoE Avenger unit, and her first skill increases her own attack by 20% for 3 turns and increases all allies' attacks except herself for 30%, and applies charm immunity to all allies except herself. Her second skill increases her own MP strength for 20%. It applies invincibility to herself, and she has a unique mechanic where she can change her MP card type to either Quick Arts or Buster for 3 turns. Her third skill increases her own MP gauge by 50%. It also gives an 80% chance to increase her Buster, Quick, and Arts card effectiveness by 20% for 3 turns. And her MP is a AoE MP that deals damage to all enemies and increases her own extra card attack for 1 turn and increases her own MP strength for 3 turns, and that activates first before her first MP. Her kit is really strong. She provides all 3 attack modifiers with the standard charisma attack, the card effectiveness, and NP strength all on her skills and NP. She also has a 50% NP gauge, which I think helps out a ton while trying to loop. It sort of provides that safety net at lower NP levels to guarantee you'll be able to NP that next turn if you don't fully recharge your NP gauge while trying to loop. And overall, I think she's just a much safer looper to get if you're really looking forward to the future of Castoria looping, which is going to be the meta in a few years, so look forward to that. But overall, I think both Summer Musashi and Space Ishtar are very capable loopers, and they can both do the job really well, even at MP1. Mine are both MP1 on JP, and they do the job of looping just fine. I just sometimes have to switch between one or the other, depending on the node. Overall though, 2021 is going to be a crazy year in FGO. We're going to get a ton of really strong servants, some of which I didn't really cover in this video, such as writer Vinci, Reines, and Old Man Lee. Let me know down in the comments who you're looking forward to pulling this year. I'm really looking forward to Kama the most, as well as Summer Musashi. I'm going to go for at least MP2 on both of those. And I'm also definitely going to grab a copy of Space Ishtar. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.